Hey guys, it's Will. In this one, we're going to go over BlackSky stock. This is a company that has seen a lot of AI momentum because they're driving AI analytics inside of space tech with satellites that are launched up into orbit and they're surveying down on Earth using technology that's AI driven, along with extremely fast deployments of these satellites using Rocket Lab as their main company they kind of ferry up into space with. So they have had a market cap that has grown really fast over the last few months. They were just at $3 a share around this time last year. And then at one point, about just a month ago, they were $33 a share. Now, we have some long term positions in BlackSky. They're up about 34% since entry, but nothing crazy as the company has had volatility. We haven't really touched the positions on BKSY. But BKSY stock has been having some really interesting growth related to the space tech industry. If you look at some of their recent announcements and what they've been focusing on, kind of take a look at their overview, you see these again very cool real-time space-based intelligence where they could see all of the boats down on Earth, or all of the oil tankers, or all of the cars, or probably even the people, but they could see things like cars and airplanes for sure. And if you look at some of the recent press releases, the space tech market has been growing. It's a little different than it was a few years ago because a lot of the conversation around space tech is that these companies are actually making money now. And so when you look at their recent announcements, just into November, they signed a $30 million deal with a multi-year contract to integrate Gen 3 tactical ISR services. So Gen 3 is their newest satellites they've launched. And if I can pull up maybe another view of their Gen 3 satellite, let's see if we could get a better look at their Gen 3. You can kind of understand here what the Gen 3 looks like. Here it is. So the Gen 3, super high tech. They could see all the cars. They could see very high definition images. Look at how high def these images are of different places. The Grand Mosque, Saudi Arabia. Look how high definition that is. What's going on at the shipping ports, for example, in New Zealand. And they could even see the ripples of the water down there. I'm convinced they could probably recognize a license plate down on Earth because of how good they are. But when it comes to the growth they've seen, they have partnerships with NASA, the Department of Defense, National Reconnaissance Office, Air Force Research Laboratory, and many others. But when they just came out with this new release, that was during a government shutdown. Now, most companies aren't, from a space defense or just defense sector in general, are not getting contracts because the US government has been shut down for a record 35, 36 days. And so with this $30 million contract, even though the government shut down, is good to see. They also won a Luno A delivery order. That was back in September, and then in August they won a seven-figure space domain deal, and then a 2-year contract there with an international customer. And so when you're looking at the growth of the stock, they're only at about $600 million in market cap. At one point earlier this year, they were over about $1 billion, which is good. But if you're looking at whether they're a good company to buy or not, their market cap's pretty low for most space tech. Space tech companies in the past notoriously did not have much revenue. In fact, just in 2020, this company was only doing $21 million in an entire year. But the revenue in 2024 was $102 million, up 8% a year in that compounded growth. And then in 2025, right now, you got 30 million here, 22 million. So that's 72 million plus another 20 million. So they're on track to do about $95 million so far with one more quarter to report. So they're going to do over $100 million this year, most likely, which again is increasing their revenue year over year. But their net income is still negative, so they're still spending quite a bit. And when we look at the balance sheet, It's pretty good to see that their assets are up about 55% and their cash is up 133%, but or 131%, but their total liabilities, their debt is still it's gone up 100%. It's not greater than their assets, but it has gone up quite a bit, so their total equity is only around 91 million. But for a company that's in space tech in a market that's very hard to tap into, I think that the $600 million market cap is still pretty small. And with their recent deals, if they continue to get up to revenues quarterly, let's say they have a quarterly average of around 40 to 50 million, and they're a $250 million a year company. Right now, if they're doing over $100 million a year, $600 million market cap, still a tad bit low, but we could see their market cap definitely grow if they continue to build out the infrastructure. When we're looking at why they're building out infrastructure from a news perspective, one of their top partners is Rocket Lab. And Rocket Lab has done some missions with SpaceX, or not SpaceX, they're a competitor to SpaceX, but with NASA, with the European Space Agency. You could see BlackSky here as one of the top companies that they've done missions with. So multiple dedicated Electron missions for BlackSky in 2024, 2025, and even further back. If we go look at the missions, you can see the missions launched. You can go to the specific launches. If we go way back, you'll probably see BlackSky. Actually, not 2024, but even earlier than that, you can see 2021. They've been launching since 2021. So it's even a typo on the Rocket Lab site, even though on their site they literally say 2024 is when they started launching. But as you can tell, they've been launching since, 2022, 2021. So BlackSky has been getting a lot of Gen 3 satellites up, and it's allowed them to secure some more contracts, and their market cap is still fairly low as a space company that's building momentum, and their AI analytics are going to provide a lot of value, I would imagine, to US governments and other companies that are working on defense. And so they have recently pulled back. They have an overall uptrend. They IPO'd, and since IPO, they sold down, and now they've found a recovery spot around $3, and they've been having an overall uptrend for the last year, and they recently aggressively sold back down to around $15 a share. Now, I entered somewhere around here in April of 2025, so we're still up, but in this recent pullback, as a long-term investor, I'm looking to add to this position, and now the risk to profit reward, you're looking at a support level around this 200-day moving average, right here around $15 a share. This is where they recently bounced, and if we go, let's say a little bit more close, you can see this bounce. They shot down to 14 and bounced back up to $17 a share. So they're currently at 17.40. They're still holding below this EMA. So this is a blue line that if they're holding below that exponential moving average, it's oftentimes going to just indicate it's acting as a resistance there on the technical side. As we could tell, the fundamentals, they look not so bad. But last time, when we saw every downtrend, they hold below that EMA. When they get into the uptrend, there's a point at which they break above that EMA. They start to continue up, and in a bull trend, you're going to see them holding above, kind of like back here in June of 2025 and into July and August, where they were holding above that EMA before selling back below in that kind of bear trend for the next month or so. So it's been about a month or so where it's kind of been holding below this EMA and trying to push back up above it. Now, if we see them get back up above it and they can continue this overall trend, and we see that more confirmation like that, we might end up trading them again, even though we have long-term positions. Look for a shorter-term swing, because right now the support's around $15, which is where they're close to, and the margin for profit, if they make that recovery back up into these levels, it's about a 75% margin for profit, which, again, if they continue to improve, government reopens, and they continue to secure contracts like they did this last week, seeing them get up into that $800 million to $1 billion market cap would make a lot of sense. And that would put them between this $24 to $28 range, which is about a 40% to 70% increase. So kind of watching those levels closely on BlackSky. And that's kind of the risk right now, is you'd want to have a plan in the short term, because if it breaks below here, continues down, there's a support around $15. If it doesn't hold that support, it's looking fairly bearish, and you'd want to watch that level closely if you're in a short-term trade. Long-term trades doesn't really matter. In fact, it's probably looking like a more favorable entry on BlackSky for long-term investments. than at other times we've seen earlier this year, obviously. So that's going to be kind of a focus right now, just seeing how dynamic does it act around the support. Does the novelty of the government shutdown, is that going to cause panic, or are we going to see a lot of positive sentiment around the government shutdown reopening and it's going to look good and more bullish? That's the question. So where I'm at right now is I hold long term. I continue to add to my position and buy on BlackSky. But then on the shorter term positions, extremely important to have a plan in place. So whatever that looks like for you. Well, a lot of times what we'll do is when we're in our live trading sessions in the morning, if we ever do any shorter term trades, is we have this thing called a profit calculator. I'll leave it in the description. You can use it as much as you want, but let's say you get in at $17, current price is at $18, and you got 1,000 shares. If that's the case, you're looking at what we do is I'll usually go for 10% or more on each trade. That's usually what I'm looking for. And it might take some time to materialize. Sometimes it's 15 to 20%, but minimum, what makes it worth it is a dip buy for looking for a 10% or more. And so in that case, we'll have usually about a 1 to 5 kind of negative ratio. So willing to cut losses around 2%. If we're going to strategically place it around a $15 support, again, you'd be looking for a pretty massive swing trade, like $15 support there, and then into that 58% potential gain. And that's kind of what I was just talking about, is like we already have positions, but we'd be looking for that $24 to $30 price point, $24 to $28 price point. And if we see that move, then obviously the risk tolerance is going to go up. And then at that point, you probably wouldn't even really abide by that, and you just hold it for the long term. Probably would be the trade. But that is the outlook for the company, kind of in the risk to reward side of things. And if we wanted to pull up an AI analysis, this is our AI analysis. And inside the machine, you can use OpenAI, Grok, Claude, or Gemini, and have the analysis done for you from these models. When we're looking at the top transactions as it's loading up, it's looking at the press releases, the charts, it's looking at the financials and the technicals before it gets a start projection. You can see that the institution's 67% ownership, there's been more buys than sells. According to the Claude AI analysis of that, actually indicates that there's some confidence from institutions. On the insider side, let's see how that analysis looks. You see the chair has been buying. There's been some sells here and there. CEO sold back in September a little bit. But overall, more buys than sells in the insider buying and selling. So BlackSky is looking fairly bullish in that regard. So then you got maybe some downward trend potential here the next week. See BlackSky in that trend over the next 3 months. According to Claude, it's fairly still negative. But over the next year, it's 12% positive. So again, it's in that negative downtrend. Maybe it holds a while longer, but they're projecting this stock to get back up into $19. Usually space tech, it moves pretty quickly. So I think this is pretty conservative, which the AI models are unbiased. And sometimes they are very conservative. But yeah, overall projections are looking very bullish over the next year. And anybody that's getting a 12% return in the stock market is probably pretty happy. So that's why we wanted to bring it up here as an asset for you guys to consider, not to buy, but just to get the insights on what you think. Now, if you guys want to join us in our daily live trading sessions and get this AI tool to visualize markets, use AI to do analysis for you, and build an AI-powered watch list that can analyze stocks for you on autopilot, then I would encourage you to visualize the markets, get this tool and access to our daily live trading sessions in the first link in the description. And if you want to only tune into the daily live trading, you don't want a 1-year access to the beta of this AI tool, but you want to get up early maybe for our daily live trading sessions, depending where you are. We're there every day, Monday through Friday at market open. It's the second link in the description. And this is StockMate community along with the live trading we'll have. We'll have some targets coming out later before the market open tomorrow with all the companies, along with our targets for those companies. There's when they're reporting earnings, what we're looking forward to for those companies. And there's about 28 millionaires in StockMate. And if you'd like to surround yourself with investors that are advanced, also there's some beginner investors. But if you want to send me a message, even talk with me, again, you can always do that in StockMate. Appreciate you all. If I earned your thumbs up, then hit the like button. Hopefully I did earn your thumbs up. Do consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.